do that. So come and lay down. Make sure you're comfortable. So you can either have your legs extended or you can bend your knees and place your feet on the floor. You're welcome to take some support underneath your head if you wish to have support. And hopefully we've got a belt nearby as well. So let's have a strap nearby and we'll come and lay down. So we can take some slow deep breaths to just really arrive in our body here now. So let's feel the breath reach deep down into the body. As we inhale, we can feel the breath, its literal journey through the lungs, but we can also feel that little push that's created into the body, how the belly moves, how the rib cage moves, how the chest moves, how the pressure of our body against the floor is just increased with each inhalation and reduced with each exhalation. And then as we feel into this relationship with the breath, we can even bring in a little element of visualization with the breath where we breathe into the body and we feel that we breathe all the way down through the limbs, through the torso, through the limbs, through the legs, through the arms as well. So let's feel into that. And then as we feel into that, again, we can just feel that there is an arrival in the body. There's an arrival in the breath. The breath arrives in the body and we arrive in the body. Okay. Now we're going to bring the knees in towards the chest. Just walk out the pelvis down your mat a little bit. So you can have a sort of little wiggle across your mat as you do this. We can have a little movement across the back of the pelvis, keeping the knees together or keeping the thighs together, and just rock from side to side. Not all the way over into a twist, but just rocking to each side of the pelvis, to either side of the sacrum there, into the hips, okay? And then as we rock, we can feel that this is bringing a little gradual loosening to the lower back there. It's bringing a little softening to the lower back there. It's bringing breath there. And then we can just open up the legs, the angle of the back of the knees, so we can take the feet a little higher towards the ceiling, but we're going to keep the knees bent. And again, we can just feel into a little bit of movement from side to side. We can continue with that rocking, loosening up through the lower back. And then we'll take hold of the back of the thighs for a moment as we continue to rock. Okay, so it's not a big action here, but it's enough to feel that the whole body is moving in this. It's not a big movement, but again, it's enough. Okay, now if you have the reach, you're welcome to take hold of perhaps the shins or ankles or even feet, so you can continue in that action. And wherever we are holding, whether it's the feet, the shins, or behind the thighs, we'll play with a little bit of movement through the legs. So bringing the legs towards extension in turn, moving them out from side to side, bending the knee a little further into a deeper flexion, so you draw the heel back towards the buttocks, just sort of waving around and playing with the legs. So of course this posture is known as happy baby pose, so we can be like a happy baby. When they find their feet, they tend to not just hold them and be still, they tend to sort of roll around and play with them. So we can do that, but without putting our feet in our mouth like a baby might do. So just keep breathing and exploring here. Feel it as that, it's like a gradual introduction to our day here, a gradual waking up. Okay, wonderful. Now let's just release the legs down. Let's bring our hands behind our head so we can just cradle our head into interlaced fingers there, like we're just relaxing on a beach. Okay. Now let's just bring the feet in a little closer towards the buttocks now. So we can lift up the pelvis from the floor and we can have a little play around. Now we're not going for a high Setu Bandhasana lift, that bridge pose lift, but we're just lifting enough that we can play with a little movement, a little swaying of the pelvis and a little rotation, a little rocking and tilting and tipping. So just feel into some movement here so we can start to feel that movement up into the lower back, into the waist, the belly. And we can breathe, we can breathe. Okay, and then when you've moved through that a few times, we'll come back down, we'll find the breath again. So let's take a full deep breath here. And then maybe another one and let it soften. Find some patience in the breath, some ease in the breath. Okay. Now let's just, you can raise up your left knee. We're going to lift the head so it's still cradled in the fingers. We're just going to bring the left knee towards the right elbow or the right elbow towards the left knee. In fact, it's both of those things. Knee and elbow coming in towards each other. So there's a little twist here. Try not to use your neck muscles to lift the head. So you are using the strength of your arms and you're also using your, more importantly, your abdominal muscles to lift up there. So that little, I think in sort of exercise terms, they call things like this crunches perhaps. It's not really that because what we're doing here is, of course, purposing this action for awareness itself. So it's not about us crunching our abs or whatever it might be in terms of exercise, but it's about using these movements and the sensations that arise through the movements to gain a deeper intimacy with our own experience here. So we breathe through it and we, again, with this element of patience, kshanti, that we apply in our practice, so you just keep moving at your own pace, slow it down, slow and steady. With this patience, we're sort of guided into, sort of slowing down our reality. So that means that the mind isn't rushing here, there and everywhere as it might often do and be planning and, reflecting and all of the things that the mind does, which is, wonderful to have a mind that does all of these things. But just for this period of time whilst we're here in our yoga practice at least, it's slowing down to just be in the experience. That's it. That's all it's doing. Now let's release the head back down to the floor. We'll release the hands from behind the head. We'll just watch that release through the belly. Just watch as the breath softens as well. Let the pelvic floor soften. Okay, let's bring our arms down by our sides now. So we can, first of all, externally rotate the arms. So you turn your palms up towards the ceiling, and then that will create a little pull down of the shoulder blades. They'll draw in a little closer towards each other. So the chest is nicely opened here. So arms are pretty close in towards the body, feet are pretty close in towards the buttocks. Then when we've done that, we can turn the palms down, and you can either keep the hands there, or if you're an equal distance from the edges of your yoga mat, you might want to take hold of your yoga mat. So we're going to bring this into more of a Setu Bandhasana posture now, into a bridge pose. So we're going to raise up, but we don't have to go all the way up to the highest height we can go. So we're going to lift and lower into it a few times. So we're going to lift as we breathe, and of course lower as we breathe as well. We're not going to stop breathing at any stage, but there might be natural little suspensions in the breath that's not from us holding the breath or overly concentrating, thinking if we pause the breath we'll be able to focus more. It just comes from the fact that when we're really dropping into a relaxed state, the breath doesn't have to be continuous. There are natural suspensions of the breath because it's not needed. So we might not get those suspensions here and now, but if we do, that's fine. So we're lifting and lowering, we're feeling that work coming into the thighs, into the belly. And there might be, as you lift up, you might find that you just play with a little more extension each time you lift. Deeper breaths as they want to come. Trust in the breath, it knows. Okay, now we can take a little pause in this lift now. So we've probably come to a point where we've lifted a reasonable height from the floor. So we'll just pause into that and feel that the work is coming not just from the buttocks, so they are toned for sure, but they're not overly gripping together because that closes the lower back or tightens the lower back. But there's definite tone there. But there's also tone there in the hamstrings, the back of the thighs. That's what's getting us up as well. So we take deep breaths, or slow breaths rather. We don't always have to reach the breath in deeply, but we can slow it down here. And that tends to give it a natural deeper reach. Okay, let's slowly roll the body back down. Step the feet a little further away. Just take the arms out wide so we can just go completely wide if we have that space. And just take a few breaths here. Now you should feel here that there is residual release through the buttocks, through the hamstrings, through the quads as well, so the front and back of the thighs here. Okay, a little tip of the knees from side to side, so just a few of those rotations. Maybe you'll take your arms a little higher so we can have a little bit more extension through the sides of the body as we tip the knees and rock across the back of the pelvis. And again, we can feel now that that's really starting to loosen up through the sides of the body, through the lower back, through the waist and belly. And then we come back to the center, and then we're going to take a little turn when you're ready. So you can rotate to lay on your side facing towards the screen. Okay, well done. Now, let's take a little pause here. Let's rest our head in our hand. Now, I'm hoping that you've got some space in front of you and a little bit of space behind you, but you can negotiate with that space. You don't have to move the leg as far. So we're going to have our head supported in our hand like I've done here now, and we can lengthen out the underside of the body. Feel free to pad out the hip if it feels a little bit bony against the floor. Pop yourself on a blanket or towel, and then we can press into the elbow and we can lift the rib cage and lengthen the rib cage up away from the hip. We can lift the elbow and lengthen the elbow up away from the shoulder. And then we'll pause here. We've got one hand on the floor in front of us, so this is going to be like a little stabilizing arm here, okay? We're going to raise up that top leg. Now we're going to feel into a little bit of movement, which is to bring the leg forwards and then take the leg back, a little swing of that leg. So it's not a big movement to start with, but we can feel how the arm in front of us is providing us with some support here. That's it. And the belly, the abdominal muscles and back muscles are engaged too. Now, as we move back and forth like this, we can then feel into maybe a little further movement. So there's a little counterbalance with the body. As the leg comes forwards, the body kind of tips back a little. And as the leg draws back, the body leans forward. So we counterbalance that so we don't tip completely to one side. And then we feel into this movement. So you can start to take that leg a little further as feels comfortable. And that might mean that you stay within quite a small range, and that's fine. You're listening to your body, you're feeling what feels appropriate here and now. But if there is scope to go further, then of course you're welcome to, as long as it doesn't feel forceful or grasping. Okay, now we've moved through that action a few times. We'll just bring that top leg back on top of the bottom leg. That's it. Breathe here. Okay. Now let's bend that top knee and we're going to bring the foot on the floor behind the other leg here. We're going to come up onto our forearm. Okay, so the top leg is the leg that's behind, foot nice and firm on the floor, you can see there. Okay, and then we're going to lift up here. So we're going to press into this foot and press into this forearm. You can either be on the outer edge of the hand or palm flat down. Feel what feels more comfortable for you. And then again, we can use this stabilizing hand to help us get up. We can lift up like this. We can lift the heel of this supporting foot behind. So you're welcome to do that. That helps you to get that little bit of lift. So you can see the difference. My heel down, my heel up. Gives me just a little bit more lift. And then we breathe through this. So you can come down anytime you need to come down. Okay, now we're going to bring the foot down if we can. So bring the heel back down. And if you can, we're going to just see if we can lift that leg up, the extended leg. Doesn't matter if that feels too strong. It's pretty early in the morning at the moment. So, okay, well done. Now let's bring that leg down. Let's bend the knee. Let's bring the arm down. Let's come all the way down. We'll come all the way down onto our side again. And we'll just extend the arm above the head. And we'll take a breath here. Oh, that's it. Bend the knees. Let everything settle. Let yourself be aware of the settling. So feel into the settling. Feel into the settling. Okay, now we're going to extend out that bottom leg again, and we're going to bring the top knee in towards the body, and we can play with this movement. We can bring the knee forwards and back. We can have a little rotation through the hip here. We're going to be raising this leg up in a moment, so we're familiar with this. Now, normally we would have our head propped up like this, but we're not. We're going to keep our head down because we're not going to take hold of the foot. So you may need to adjust where this supporting hand is as we bring that leg up. So we're going to bring the knee up and then we're going to extend the leg up. Okay, so we could be more like this, we could be like this, we could have a bend in our knee, we can play into it, and we can even play into the movement when we're there. We might have a little bounce out through that leg, we may draw the leg further away, draw it in, we can play with the foot, we can rotate at the ankle, we can wiggle the toes, we can move the foot between plantar and dorsiflexion. So just feel into what feels right for your body. So feel the sort of softness that we get here with the head down. So it's slightly different to when we come up and we hold the big toe. That we can almost let all of this part of our body that's in contact with the floor just soften as this raised leg does most of the work. It's not that it's doing all the work, of course, but we can feel a softer support. Okay, now let's slowly bring that leg down. That's it. Breathe. Take a moment. You might need to bend the knees to feel nice and spacious across the lower back, so you can bend the knees if you need to. Okay, now we're going to just extend out that bottom leg out towards a right angle. It might be a little lower down. You might have to have a little bend in the knee. It's fine either way. We'll lift up the head, we'll lift up the body so we can come back up onto the forearm. So we're creating this sort of square shape there between the legs, and then we're going to lift and we're going to turn. So let's lift the body and turn. Now, we often come into this position with this bottom leg bent. So we're coming into a twist here. But we're extending the leg out today because we're going to come down into it in a slightly different way. So we can still make that adjustment that we often make of the hip on the floor. So pressing the hands into the floor, lifting up the hip and just pulling it back from that foot. Okay, so it gives you a little bit more turn. Having a little play from side to side, so have a little sway to slowly start to lower yourselves down with length. So we'll come down onto the forearms, and this might be fine where we've come to here. We may stay in this position, or if you feel comfortable to do so, what you can do here now is you can lift and lengthen and lay yourself down, bring your body, your torso down to the floor, and then take your arms out to the side. Now, your head can either face in the same direction as this extended leg, this bottom leg that is, or you can turn your head to the other side if you've got a lot of turn. So that might involve lifting up, rotating the body, coming back down, and replacing the body. So feel into it. It doesn't matter if this top leg wants to drift a little. It's okay. So feel into this twist. So it's just like a little reversed variation of a twist that we often do on our back. Okay. Now let's bring ourselves up. So we'll bring our hands in. We'll bend both knees and stack them to come up. So we can walk our hands in nice and easily in towards the body to bring the body up. And then we're going to swing our legs around to the other side of our yoga mat. And we're going to go through that same little sequence again. So first of all, we come down and we're going to support our head in our hand and lengthen out the underside of the body when you're ready. So pressing into the hand, lifting up the rib cage, lifting up the elbow, lengthening it away. So we've got a nice long placement of the body here. Let's just take a moment again to gather ourselves. Feel the breath. Feel the body softening into this. Relaxing into it, meeting the posture. Okay, so again, we're going to lift up this top leg. We're going to take this hand, so you can move where this hand is positioned, where it feels most supportive. We're going to start with that little bit of a swing of the leg, forwards and back. We can let the body lean into it. We can let the body lean back. That's it. We can play into this. And it might be that you start to take the leg a little further forwards, take it a little further back. Remember, the body is providing a little counterbalance. So as the leg draws back, the body can lean forwards and vice versa. As the leg draws forwards, the body can lean back. So we stay balanced. Feel the breath at the center of it. And feel a peacefulness in the movement if you can. If there's no peace there, then it's indicative of us striving or grasping for something. So we're looking to experience this with what's called parigraha, which means to be free of grasping. Okay, well done. Now let's just bring that leg back on top of the other leg and we'll pause there. We'll take a breath, we can feel the release, and if you need to give the buttock a little pat, feel free to give it a little pat, okay? And then we're going to bring that foot onto the floor, that top leg again behind the other leg. We can press into the floor to bring ourselves up onto our forearms. So we've got this hopefully comfortable position here. We're going to use the hand and the forearm and the foot to press in and to lift up. And again, we lift up, we raise that arm up. You can come down anytime you need to. And again, we can get a little boost of that lift by lifting up the heel of this bent leg. And then we may get a little bit more lift here. Let's see if we can lift and lengthen up into the chest. Breathe into that. Okay. Now we can bring that foot back down. If you're comfortable to do so and you feel nice and steady there, you are welcome to raise up this other leg. That's it. You just lifted enough. Take a breath or two here. And then bring the foot down. Well done. Let's bend the knee. Let's come on down. Let's come on all the way down again to rest our head on our arm. Feel into any little movements here as the body softens. So let's just watch the release in the body from that previous action. And let the body be soothed by little movements. Let the body be free by little movements. Let the mind relax. Okay, so again, we're going to keep our head on our arm. We're going to keep this hand on the floor in front of us. And we're going to raise this top leg up. We're going to bend the knee. And again, we can either play with this little flexion at the hip there, taking it into a deeper flexion, drawing the knee in, taking the leg away, having a little rotation there. So we're just getting a little bit of movement there into the hip joint, into the hip flexors. Feeling the breath. So it's just a little exploration here. Again, you can move this hand so you feel supported. And then when you're ready, we're going to see if we can extend that leg. And again, we can play with movement here in the extended leg position. We might rotate the ankle. We might wiggle the toes. We might, again, play with the flexion and extension of the knee or still into the hip. I quite like having a little bounce of the leg whilst it's in extension. Almost like I'm bouncing my heel off something. Okay, and then we'll just pause. We'll breathe. We'll enjoy it. So boga, enjoyment, that can be part of our yoga. Okay, well done. Now let's bring that leg down slowly. That's it. Fantastic. Breathing. Just watch the release through the leg. It sort of almost feels like it's sort of flooded with release. Okay, now let's come on up. We're going to bring that bottom leg out now. So again, we're going to see if we can take it out in extension, but of course you can bend your knee if you need to. That top leg drawing back. So we've got two straight-ish legs. It doesn't matter if we need to bend the knees though, of course it doesn't matter. So we're going to take a little turn to the side. We're going to bring our hands to the floor. We're going to press into our hands. We can pull that hip back. We can play with a little bit of movement here. Again, loosening the body, encouraging the body around into the twist. So there's just a little movement into the soft tissues of the body that it's like we mold our body like clay sometimes. And You know, like clay, you wouldn't sort of, if you wanted to stretch out a piece of clay, you would gradually massage it into length. You wouldn't just pull it. Okay? Not that our body is going to react in exactly the same way that clay would react, but you know, we can sort of feel into the sort of sensitivity of this steady encouragement. Okay, now we can come down to the forearms, or if you feel comfortable to do so, and remember we want to get this turn, we want to rotate into this to place the body down, and then arms come out to the sides, and head is either positioned so you're looking in the same direction as this outstretched leg, or if you've got a lot of turn, you may be looking in the opposite direction. There should be no strain in your neck. So let's be clear that we're not forcing, we're not pushing. This should feel like we're placing the body. This is a nyasa, a placement of the body. Okay, well done. Now let's bring the arms back in, lift the head, bring the arms back in, stack the knees, press into the hands, bring yourselves in, bring yourselves onto your hands and knees. That's it. Take a little pause there. Take a little pause there. And then feel into any movement here, so we can draw back, we can draw forwards, we can lean into it. So let's position our hands shoulder width apart. Check that they are an equal distance from either the midline you can use as your reference point, or you can use the outer edges of your mat as your reference point. But the hands are equally placed, and then you can look down at the feet and knees and check that they're equally placed. So we're not sort of placing the body at an angle here. Okay, and then we're moving into it. So I'm just moving up and down my mat at the moment, not particularly bringing movement into the spine, but you might be sort of rounding and arching through the spine, or twisting and turning. I want you to just gradually work your way through movement here that feels like it's releasing you, it's offering you, it's surrendering you into this. Let the breath flow. I'm not even sure we could say that what we do here is yoga without this intimacy with our breath. Without this intimacy with the breath that, you know, helps to guide us into integration. It's like the bridge between body and mind and heart. Okay, now let's take this up into a downward facing dog. So we'll lift the knees, we'll tip the pelvis here. So let's get a really good clear tip of that pelvis. So I always keep my heels lifted to start with, which helps me to get that tip of the pelvis before I think about the heels descending. And I'm not even really thinking about the heels descending, to be honest, but I'm thinking about the legs moving back. So it's the whole of the front of the legs moving to the whole of the back of the legs. So shins draw back or push back towards the calves, front of the thighs, push back towards the back of the thighs. Okay, we can play with movement again. There may be a little bend of the knees, a little movement from side to side here. That's it, breathing into it. Anything that the body needs. Full deep breaths. Keep a good, firm support from the hands through the arms. You are guiding energy up. Okay, now let's come down. Let's bring the knees to the floor. Let's sit back on the heels in an upright seated posture. Vajrasana. I've just spotted my belt on the floor and remembered that we were going to do some stuff with a belt on our back, and we didn't, did we? Okay. So we'll just pause and we'll breathe and we'll rest our hands in our lap. You can take support between buttocks and heels or an alternative posture, that's fine. So we're just looking for a placement of the body where the spine can settle, where the back muscles can settle, where our breath can settle, where we can settle. Okay, we are going to just bring ourselves forwards again onto our hands and knees. We're going to push back up into a downward facing dog. We're just going to transition it into another pose very briefly. So come on up. So Vasishthasana, okay, so this is what's commonly called a side plank position. We're going to take a little lean forwards to bring our shoulders above our wrists. We make a normal plank type position. You then rotate on the balls of your feet to turn your body towards the screen. So that top, what will become the top leg, will be bent with the foot in front of the other one. You can raise the arm up and you can either stay here, or if you prefer to take that foot behind, if that feels easier, that's often easier to get a little lift, or you can stack your feet if that feels easy for you to do so. That's it, breathe. Okay, just a brief stay. Let's return it to downward facing dog. Let's find length before we come forwards again. So let's deepen into the hands. Let's draw up through the arms, through the upper body. Let's draw the legs back. Now let's lean forwards. Let's come to bring our shoulders above our wrists. Let's take a little rotation on the feet. So you're moving in the other direction. And again, we can either have that top leg, foot on the floor in front of the other leg, foot behind the leg that's in contact with the floor, or we can stack it. Okay? Breathe. Okay, well done. Let's bring it back. Downward facing dog in your own time. Place the hands, push, lengthen, breathe. But, don't be forceful. Certainly don't jam your heels down to the floor. This tends to make people round in the lower back. But we can bring energy, but it's a sensitive energy that is brought to the posture in communication with the body, not overriding the body. Okay, well done. Let's bring our knees down, take a breath here. Have a little movement, have a little play, have a little wiggle. Again, we can take a little brief sit back in Vajrasana to let everything settle in the body. We can take a little brief fold forwards in Balasana. So child's pose, letting the pelvis tilt. Sometimes I just lift my bum up so I can really draw the sitting bones back and then descend it back down towards the heels. And then folding forwards. And as you fold forwards, you're welcome to take support underneath your head if you wish. You're welcome to have your arms forwards or back. And then you just take a few breaths here. We'll just take a few slower, softer breaths here. Okay, now this class always goes particularly quickly. You'll see it's only 45 minutes. So it's already time for us to come into Shavasana. So let's prepare for that. So you can come on up slowly. You can take any supports that you might want in Shavasana, which might be a little bit of support underneath your head with a folded blanket or a block. Might be a little bit of support underneath your knees with a bolster or pillow or something. And then we're laying down, of course, as always, either in this kind of position with the arms a little distance from the body, not pinned against the body, so we've got a little bit of space there, or resting the hands on the torso. So feel into what feels comfortable. Make those adjustments that you need to make. Maybe get a cat on your lap. and lay down. So let's take some deep breaths here and just give to the breath. Feel held by the floor, totally held by the floor. So in other words, there's no part of you that needs to hold yourself in this, that needs to position yourself in this. You are held. And as we feel held by the floor, we can extend that experience to feeling held by the universe. Here we are. It is our ultimate support. It is through the laws of the universe, the laws of nature, that we exist. So let's feel that as being held. Okay, now of course if you need to move on with your day, may begin the process of coming out of Shavasana, bending your knees, placing your feet to the floor, adjusting your pelvis, feeling your breath. But if you've got longer to lay, then that's fine, you can continue. You may roll onto a side and just pause and breathe and just take a moment to feel that. If you're happy to roll to both sides of your body, you can roll to the other side as well. And then slowly in your own time coming out, maybe with a little wiggle of the toes, the fingers, little flutter of the eyes. Coming up, or a stretch of the limbs, you can bring yourselves up and come to sit. And we close our practice in any comfortable seated posture, bringing our hands to the heart center. And we'll close with a single Om. Taking a deep breath in to prepare. Thank you all very much. Namaste, Namo Vaha, reference to you all. I hope you all have a lovely day, and I'll see you soon.